Jean-Bertrand Mang, who was arrested the other day. I talked to him a few minutes ago. You know, he's in jail in Douala, or in detention is the word we should be using. And Jean-Bertrand Mang has again been bringing out a lot of information that the world ought to know about. And for that reason, precisely for that reason, they think he's too outspoken. He's been arrested. He's not well. He's very sick. And, we've got to do whatever we can, all of us, to help get this guy out before he dies, like Anise Kane did. So anyway, that's the week as I saw it. But before I go, I want to point to another story. It has nothing to do with Cameroon, but it should serve as a lesson. It's a story that reemerged this week. The death of a guy called Adnan Khashoggi, who at one time was one of the wealthiest people in the world. And the story is about how this guy, who was one of the wealthiest people in the world, he died in London in 2017. At the time he died, he had 47 cents in his main account. 47 cents. He'd gone from billions. This was a billionaire. He had just, the money just filtered away. He lost everything. And I was reading this and could not help thinking about all these fabricated billionaires in Cameroon, and to remind them that this is such a fleeting experience. Khashoggi, had he known, he would have put his money into helping people, and he might have been remembered today for that. But he's remembered today as a failed billionaire. I want to stop at that. Elende, did I say anything that you think you want to translate, interpret for the rest of our audience?
Eric, je vais essayer. Tu as parlé de 6 points. Je vais essayer de les résumer. Le premier point, c'est la santé du président de la République. Évidemment, c'est la préoccupation majeure de tout Camerounais. La question, c'est où est M. Biya? C'est la question que tout le monde pose. Tout le monde, que ce soit en privé, en public, dans les réseaux sociaux, partout, où est le président Biya? Ce qui pose effectivement un problème de leadership localement.
Leopold.
I think Leopold, his network is frozen for a moment there. Let's see if he comes back momentarily.
Okay, maybe I should just save time and quickly make the 5 points I made.
In French?
Yes, in French, I mean.
Okay. Donc, struggling to get
on a un problème technique avec Léopold, donc je vais très rapidement résumer tout ce que j'ai dit en anglais tout à l'heure. D'abord, je parlais de la santé du président de la République, qui est une préoccupation générale. Je crois que tout le monde est préoccupé par ça. On se pose des questions. Où est M. Biya? Dans quel état est-il? Et on se demande pourquoi la vérité de sa situation ne sort pas. Pourquoi le gouvernement en place ne fait pas d'annonce? C'est tout à fait normal qu'un homme de son âge soit malade et qu'il ait des difficultés de tout genre. Et on peut le dire sans créer, n'est-ce pas, une situation alarmante. Et puis, quand on apprend aussi qu'en milieu de cette semaine qui commence, la semaine prochaine, en fait, de mercredi le 22 juillet, il y aura une réunion de RDPC. Monsieur Mpete, le secrétaire général du RDPC, a convoqué une réunion spéciale, étant donné que depuis une dizaine d'années, il n'y a pas eu de réunion spéciale, entre guillemets, du RDPC. On se demande donc pourquoi maintenant. Donc, je vous invite à écouter, à ouvrir, n'est-ce pas, les oreilles et mettre l'œil sur ce qui va se passer à Yaoundé au Palais des Congrès en milieu de semaine. Je parlais donc de cela, je parlais aussi du fait que ça stagne à tous les niveaux du gouvernement. On n'arrive plus à... Il y a des décisions importantes qu'on n'arrive plus à prendre. J'ai cité le cas des prêts de la Banque africaine de développement, par exemple, presque 300 milliards de prêts pour des projets importants, mais qu'on n'arrive pas, la BAD n'arrive pas à décaisser, tout simplement parce que des décisions qui s'imposent, il n'y a pas une autorité capable de prendre ces décisions-là et de faciliter donc la mise en place de ces projets. J'ai aussi parlé d'un sujet de la semaine qui peut-être préoccupé, ce n'est pas le mot, mais ça a énormément intéressé pas mal de gens. C'est le procès Martinez-Zogo, qui a impliqué quelques anciennes autorités du pays, comme M. Martin Eko, le directeur général de la DGRE, et puis d'un homme d'affaires fabriqué de toutes pièces par l'État, évidemment, mais à un moment donné, il était devenu une personne qui occupait une place importante sur le paysage des affaires au Cameroun. Il s'agit là de M. Amougou Belinga. Donc, ce procès a énormément intéressé pas mal de gens. Et j'ai terminé en parlant de Jean-Bertrand Man, que beaucoup parmi vous connaissent, j'espère. Jean Bertrand, c'est un jeune dynamique qui a cherché à exposer des choses qui n'allaient pas en parlant de ce qu'il lui connaissait. Il était au milieu d'un certain nombre d'activités à un niveau élevé de l'État. Bon, Jean Bertrand est aujourd'hui en prison et il est très malade. Pourquoi on le garde encore là-bas? Et je parle de lui en voulant attirer l'attention de tout le monde, n'est-ce pas, à ce qui se passe dans nos prisons, où se trouvent des gens qui ne méritent pas, qui ne doivent pas être là. Hein? Mes pensées vont à beaucoup, à Yuk Tabé et son équipe, Amadou Bambouke et son équipe, Mancho Bibixi et ses amis. Il y a tellement de gens tellement de gens qui ne doivent pas être là où ils sont, mais ils y sont. Et comme leçon à tirer, j'ai parlé d'un cas qui a aussi attiré mon attention cette semaine. C'est le cas d'un homme qui était parmi les plus riches du monde à un moment donné, M. Adnan Khashoggi. Et cette semaine, ses affaires sortaient et on s'est rendu compte qu'il est passé de 4 milliards de dollars qu'il avait à un moment donné en 90. Et quand il est mort en 2017, pardon, il n'avait même pas $1 réel, un dollar dans son compte. Je vais attirer l'attention de mes amis au Cameroun qui ne pensent que amasser de l'argent. Ce n'est pas ça qui sert l'humanité. En tout cas, je m'arrête là. Allez.
Vraiment, je suis désolé, je présente toutes mes excuses. J'ai une coupure d'Internet.
Oh.
Je suis désolé, vraiment désolé. Et
pas de ta faute,
j'ai trouvé une solution alternative pour me reconnecter. En tout cas, un Cameroun nouveau est possible et il le sera.
Merci.
On n'a plus ce genre de choses. Et le petit commentaire, Eric, après Adnan Khashoggi, c'est que Khashoggi est même très loin. Plus près de nous au Cameroun, nous avons plein de cas comme cela. Il faudrait peut-être rappeler que la plupart de ceux qui ont des dépôts à l'extérieur, ce sont des comptes numérotés. Ce n'est pas un secret, ce sont des comptes numérotés. Et quand ils quittent le pouvoir, généralement, comme par hasard, ils n'ont plus accès à ces comptes-là, à ces fonds. Donc, quel gâchis. On se rappelle le cas du président nigérian. Hein? Abacha et autres, plus de 20 ans après, il a fallu restaurer, restituer une partie de ces fonds. Mais qui c'est qui perd après? Je peux citer aussi un autre cas, un ancien ministre ici au Cameroun. On peut le citer, Étienne Sama. Il a été ministre. La famille dit que il est allé à une banque parisienne bien connue. Il n'avait plus accès à ces fonds. Il a choqué et il en est mort. Donc, Khashoggi, les cas Khashoggi, ils sont nombreux. Cela devrait nous servir de leçon en réalité. Donc, tu as entièrement raison.
Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you, Leopold. Everything that you've mentioned in the last week, I wish and I hope for the day when we would look back at the last week and everything will be celebratory. But until that day comes, this is the reason why we need to redefine the nation Cameroon. There cannot be any band-aid or quick fixes to Cameroon. It's not a question of just changing who leads the country, but it's changing entirely the foundation. I'll use my experience. At the age of when I was 26 years old, we had a project. We tried to rebuild the toilets at the Limbe Regional Hospital, and in the course of trying to renovate the toilets, we found out that you couldn't just renovate the toilets because this was a toilet. These toilets had been built in pre-colonial days, and so you had to change the entire plumbing system for it to be able to work with modern technology, the way toilets were built. This analogy is exactly what I see of our country, Cameroon, is that we have evolved as a country, as a people, even at a time in the world where we are, that it would be hard for us to just look back and try to fix what happened in the past, right? Instead, we have to build a foundation that will allow us to build forward. I know it must be really hard for us to let go of what we have known in the past, but this is an opportunity for us. And if you look at what we are doing and look at the engagement of young people in the process, you can see that they have a perspective of a country that may be different from the perspective that I have with the baggage that I carry. And so it's for them that we seek to build and not for us, because the glorious days of yesteryears will not come back. Communities only prosper in the future and not in the past. So that's what we seek to build with this campaign. And every week, hopefully this week as well, we've come on this show and we've seen participation significantly increase. I would say in the last week, we've had 300-400% increase in participation with the surveys. We're hoping to get similar results at the end of this conversation. Yeah. I must clarify now that we're broadcasting on YouTube, on X, on Facebook. So people are listening and hopefully will be participating in this conversation as we go on. And at this point, I just want to remind everyone, I put in the chat the links to the surveys in English and in French. So if you're here and you've not taken those surveys, please take the surveys. In the meantime, I'm just going to quickly run through the survey questions, some of the results, the responses that we do a weekly analysis of it, and then we'll broadcast that in English and in French. But I would try to do this as fast as possible so we get to our speaker of the day, because I know everybody wants to listen to Dr. Munzu. So let me just highlight just make some highlights here of the survey, and I'll share my screen here. Okay. Please, somebody give me thumbs up if you can see my screen here. Okay, great. So the Once of Us All campaign questionnaire, the results, and these results, we update them every week. So this is the week ending July. Demographics, this is the survey as taken in English. And I say as taken in English, I do not qualify this as Anglophone. I say in English. It doesn't matter what language you speak, but this survey, this particular one, it's in English, and then we have the survey as well in French. Our hope at the end is that we're going to combine both results, and then that would be what leads us on. But we wanted to do it in English and in French separately because this gives varying perspective. It shows us where there is a difference in perspective, but it also shows us where there is a convergence in perspective. So the survey is in various parts. There's 6 parts of the survey, and the first part is basically the demographics part. And as you can see, each week we see some movement here. You can see that we have had a significant increase in the youth participation. About 44% of those who took the survey are between the ages of 18 and 35, whilst we are also seeing that 28% are over the age of 55. We also see the distribution in terms of participation. We've seen a significant increase in participation from the Southwest, with 28% from the Northwest and about 18% from the diaspora. But note the Center, East, and other regions and see the significant participation of the English-speaking population in that part of the country. We still have a very high percentage of male participation in the survey. Each week we encourage more women. I see that there has been some movement in that direction. Demographics in terms of professional status, as you can see, again, the private sector carries a significant part of it. I note 8% of those who took the survey are public servants, 24%, and significant increase there in student participation, which is good. That corresponds to the youthful age group there. And this is also, it breaks my heart that we still have a 9.4% of unemployed people participating in the survey, but that is reflective of what's happening in the country as well. So that's something to look at. Then we go to the second section on identity and nationhood. Really quickly, the emphasis that it's important to protect all languages and cultures. Then there is to the question, do you believe all ethnic groups are treated equally in Cameroon? There's a resounding no, and that's something that we need to bear in mind. Do you feel proud proud to be Cameroonian? As you can see, 54% say yes. That's a significant amount. This amount continues to change week after week. Last week, it was about 47%, and now we've seen that increase. In terms of governance and democracy, this is the next section, which has to do with trust in public institutions. We have about just 6% of those who took the survey have trust in public institutions. The rest have either no trust in the public institutions or sometimes. Also, to the question, do you think elections in the country are free and fair? 88% say no, which is significant. 92% of those who took the survey say that there should be term limits enshrined in the Constitution. And as you can see, to the question, who should we have who should have the most power in government? More and more, each week we see that people want either shared equally or that power is decentralized significantly, and only 12% in this, or the English-speaking survey, say the president should. Only 12%. The parliament has a 26%. About corrupted section on corruption and accountability, there's a need for more punishment. It's almost 100% thing that we should emphasize more punishment on corruption. And nearly 100% of 9 out of 10 people who took this survey say they've been affected by corruption in our country, and yet we live under such circumstances. If 9 out of 10 can state that, then we really cannot just ignore it. And who should oversee public officials? Independent courts, up to 43% stands out, and citizen courts as well. So citizens holding citizens accountable or leaders accountable. And then there is a 24% that thinks the parliament should. On to the next section, which has to do with the Anglophone crisis and national cohesion. To the question, should all regions have equal say in national matters? Yes, there is a 94% agreement there. There is also, to the question of the best way to resolve the Anglophone crisis, up to 81% say it has to be by dialogue. There's just the 6% that says no. Then, should the Constitution guarantee equal rights for Anglophones and Francophones? A resounding 96% say yes, it should. So those are things that have to be taken into consideration as we think about the kind of future that we want to build for our country. To the next section, which has to do with youth, women, and the future of our country. Again, we've seen this. Nearly 9 in 10 people who took the survey say the young people don't have enough opportunities. That women are not getting the kind of recognition that they need. Are women given the equal chances to lead in politics and society? There's a resounding no here, nearly 60%. Should the Constitution have more say in how, should citizens have more say in how the country is governed? 93% say yes, citizens should have more say in how the country is governed. And on to our last but one section, to what is most important for Cameroon's future. This is quite an interesting one because we see justice standing out week after week. It has been justice before development, justice before peace, justice before unity, justice before equality. And we ask participants to pick their top 2, and we see justice and development standing out. With reference to the question, should citizens participate directly in writing a new constitution? This is very intriguing because we have 76% of the participants taking the survey saying yes. So they want to participate in the process. And then our last section, just general questions here. What is the biggest challenge facing Cameroon today? You can see poor leadership and corruption really stand out. What gives you hope for Cameroon's future? New leaders and the youthful generation continue to stand out, but I draw everyone's attention to our diversity as well, because that has been consistent as we see these surveys unfold. What reform would most improve Cameroon? Better elections has consistently been in the lead, as well as less corruption. So those are things that stand out. And the final question here, should traditional leaders and civil society have a bigger role? Yes, consistently this has been a yes. So that's it for the survey in English, which I think is very intriguing. We also have the survey responses in
français.
En français.
Oui, en fait, pendant que tu passais en anglais, je déroulais aussi le résultat en français. Pendant que tu le passais en anglais, dans beaucoup de points, les graphiques auraient pu être même superposés.
Justement.
À 2 ou 3 exceptions près, notamment au début, quand on regarde la répartition géographique en français, la majorité de ceux qui ont rempli, tu vois l'extrême nord.
Voilà, l'extrême nord.
Ça, c'est frappant.
Oui. L'extrême nord, il faut regarder l'extrême nord, le nord et Adamawa.
Exactement. C'est frappant.
61% des personnes qui ont pris le sondage en français sont de l'extrême nord, de l'Adamawa et du nord.
Exact.
Yeah. OK.
Et puis aussi, quand on va un peu plus loin, êtes-vous, voilà, suivant là, êtes-vous fier d'être Camerounais? Là aussi, il y a une espèce de stabilité par rapport à ce qu'on avait pu observer la semaine dernière. Et pensez-vous que tous les groupes ethniques sont traités sur un pied d'égalité au Cameroun? Là aussi, il y a une variation remarquable. Non, qui passe à 67%. Est-il important que la Constitution protège toutes les langues culturelles? Là aussi, c'est une bonne stabilité que nous pouvons observer.
Oui.
Le oui qui l'emporte. Gouvernance et démocratie, là aussi, les graphiques auraient pratiquement pu être superposés avec le graphe que tu as lu en anglais. C'est-à-dire que faites-vous confiance aux institutions publiques, gouvernance, parlement et autres, le non l'emporte.
Oui.
Et croyez-vous que les élections au Cameroun sont libres et équitables? Là, il y a une variation par rapport aux répondants en anglais. C'est-à-dire que le non ici est de 66%, alors qu'en anglais, le non est beaucoup plus important.
Oui.
Ce qui donnera aussi matière à interprétation le moment venu. Et puis, la limitation du nombre de mandats, là, les graphes auraient pu être superposés. C'est écrasant, oui, qu'il faut limiter le nombre de mandats. Et on peut très bien comprendre pourquoi, parce que toutes les conséquences dont Eric a parlé tout à l'heure, problèmes de leadership et autres, ce sont des conséquences de la non-alternance, de la non-limitation de mandats, en fait, entre autres. Et puis, qui devrait détenir le plus de pouvoir au sein du gouvernement? Là aussi, il y a une bonne différence avec les répondants en anglais.
Oui.
Parce qu'ici, en français, on sent une espèce d'équilibre.
Oui, oui.
Alors que dans le questionnaire en anglais, le Parlement était plus important.
Oui. Et le président était à 12% au lieu de...
Exactement. Exactement. Donc, corruption et responsabilité, là, vraiment, tous les Camerounais, peu importe la langue, ont répondu. Les graphes auraient pu être superposés. Oui, pour la corruption qui a touché majorité, les sanctions en matière de corruption devraient-elles être plus sévères? Tout le monde répond oui, en grande majorité. Et la corruption et la responsabilité, là aussi, qui devrait contrôler les agents publics?
Oui.
On constate une espèce d'équilibre entre voilà, les comités de citoyens, les tribunaux indépendants. La crise anglophone et la cohésion nationale, quasiment tout le monde voudrait que la solution passe par un dialogue.
Par un dialogue, oui. C'est
Vraiment,
presque le même...
oui, c'est pratiquement les mêmes résultats. Toutes les régions devraient-elles avoir voix au chapitre dans les affaires nationales, écrasante majorité de oui. Et puis, la Constitution devrait-elle garantir égalité des droits entre anglophones et francophones, écrasante majorité de oui. Et puis, jeunesse, femmes et avenir, là aussi,
presque le même.
c'était pratiquement les mêmes résultats. Et puis, il y a aussi une bonne différence là au niveau des barres, des histogrammes.
Oui.
Voilà, c'est-à-dire que en anglais, les gens ont mis l'unité à peu près à 20%, à 20 au niveau de la hauteur. Mais la justice, elle est beaucoup plus grande.
Oui, 70%.
Exactement.
Oui.
Le reste, bon, justice, ici en français, la justice et le développement.
Mais toujours est-il que la justice est plus importante pour presque tout le monde qui a pris
pour tout le monde, oui.
le sondage. Et le développement vient en deuxième lieu.
Voilà. Et il faudrait peut-être rappeler ce que nous avons dit la dernière fois, c'est que la justice et la paix, ça va de pair, parce que là où il y a la justice, la paix suit en général.
OK. Dernière rubrique.
Voilà. La dernière rubrique. La petite différence notable, c'est surtout quelle réforme unique permettrait d'améliorer le plus le Cameroun. Là, les répondants en français ont pratiquement mis en coude à coude plus d'emplois et de meilleures élections.
Oui.
En anglais, c'était un peu différent.
Oui, c'est ça.
À ce niveau-là.
Okay. So I'll stop sharing here and say these results are coming from the Cameroonian people. We've given the people the choice to participate in this conversation. We hope that the results of this survey are communicating resoundingly the kind of Cameroon that we want. Or that Cameroonians want. And at this point, I think, Leopold, maybe we'll go on to our guest, and then we can come back to more analysis of the survey. But at this time, we would let me make sure that okay, yes, Dr. Munzu is here with us. Sorry, I was looking for you on my screen.
Il est bien là.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier on, we're deeply honored and grateful to have Dr. Munzu join us here. Munzu is a renowned Cameroonian jurist, one of my, you may not know this, but one of my best lecturers whilst I was at Yaoundé University. And, I have also personally, I was one of the people carrying things around at when they had the all Anglophone conference in Mount Mary in Boya in 1993, and obviously monitored what happened and the federal constitution that was proposed as a result of that, So we're deeply grateful to have you joining us. We know you went on to serve as the deputy resident representative of the Secretary General in the United Nations in Cote d'Ivoire. And the list goes on of things and accomplishments that you have in your life. So we are, again, very honored that you are joining us today to be part of this conversation. And really what we, when I reached out to you and shared the topic, was really from your experience and from your perspective. We wanted to learn from you whether this conversation about a new Cameroon is possible, and really, if it is possible, how? And if it's not possible, why? Because it could be that it's not possible, but this is a conversation that we hope will inspire Cameroonians, and I think your perspective would be enlightening for many of us. So welcome, Dr. Munzu, to the show.
Thank you, Ari. I hope everyone can see and hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ari. You're talking about honor. The honor and the privilege are rather mine to share these few words with you at this meeting. Since you started the series of weekly meetings of Project C on Saturday, you may or may not be aware that I have been attended practically every one of them, but I chose to do that with both my microphone on silent and my video as well, but I follow very closely. And the reason why I attended and followed very closely is that when Project C was announced, and I saw what was stated, formulated as its mission, I was so excited because, as my brother Eric Ginger would know, for decades, our conversation has turned around the need to reset Cameroon. We couldn't tinker anymore with the parts of Cameroon that we have today. We really have to reset, figure out a new Cameroon. So if you ask me whether or not a new Cameroon is possible, I would say the short answer is yes. But the long route to that short answer invites me, as you were, to remind us that if we're talking about a new Cameroon, that means that there is at least an old Cameroon, an existing Cameroon, which we're not happy with. That's why we want to change it and replace it with a new Cameroon. Now, so let me, in a few sentences, share with you what I consider to be the old Cameroon, which we want to leave behind in our endeavor to establish a new Cameroon. Now, Cameroon, as we know, is a constellation of what some people call tribes, but which I prefer to call ethnic nations. These ethnic nations, I belong to one, you, Ari, belong to one, Eric belongs to one, Leopold belongs to one. I would like to see any of us at this meeting who would put up their hand and say that being Cameroonian, they don't belong to a tribe, if you like, to an ethnic nation. We all do. And our ethnic nations were brought together by the colonialist. I like to remind myself of that all the time, especially when I hear people who, in good faith, will tell you, oh, well, let's stop talking about our tribes. We are Cameroonians. We are Cameroonians. Stop talking something like Bayangi or Bassa, Bamileke or whatever. And I say, no, that's a wrong approach. We are a grouping, a constellation of ethnic nations that were brought together by the colonialists, and what they created from bringing these ethnic nations together, they called Cameroon. And for whom did these colonialists bring these ethnic nations together? Was it the interest of inhabitants of the territory that they called baptized Cameroon? Or is it for themselves? Evidently, the answer is that these ethnic nations were brought together, given that name, in the interest of the colonialists. So whether it was in terms of tapping our natural resources, whether it was in terms of using our human resources in various ways, whether it was in terms of exploiting all the resources we had, whether it was in terms of their system of management of the territory, directly or indirectly through some of our own, native institutions, it was always in the interest of the colonialists. The colonialists who settled on the territory, but also the colonialists in terms of benefits that were expatriated to their so-called metropole, UK or France, in our case, typically UK and France. Then come the period of so-called independence. And these colonialists who created our countries leave, or at least they purport to leave. They say, we're granting you independence. We're ending our rule over you. When that happened, my dear brothers and sisters, when that happened, the question that should have been asked everywhere where these colonialists had set up this, I would say, invented these countries like Cameroon, would have been, okay, the person who brought us together is saying that they are leaving, but they want us, should we maintain this name that they gave us? Should we maintain this structure into which they put us? Or should we go back, now that they have gone, should we go back to restoring our ethnic nations? Right. That question was not asked because almost automatically, the African, and in particular in our own territory, the Cameroonian, assumed that it was okay to govern ourselves just the way that the white man had formatted us. And so they remained together. But we mustn't lose sight of the fact that when they decided to remain together, it still represented the putting together of ethnic nations. But the critical question at that point then arose, now that the colonialist in whose interest we were put together and administered has left, in whose interest are we going to govern ourselves? And if you look at it, the answer simply is that it is in the interest of the governing elite. So the governing elite became the new colonialist. And that's what we have been living. That is why we can have 60 years after so-called independence, a country that has been governed, which has all these resources, but whose population continues to live in the abject poverty that we know. Because our own native governing elite have maintained the idea that you govern it for your interest. And the rest of us have just been, once protesting here and there, just as we protested for the colonialists to leave, for us to obtain so-called independence. Right, so and yet we need to change this. We need to move away from a Cameroon that is governed in the interest of the governing elite as if it was still a colony, the new colonizer being that elite, and move to a Cameroon which works for everybody. But for us to arrive at that Cameroon, my conviction is that this cannot be decreed. We do really need, if you like, a resetting conference, a sitting of Cameroonians where we say, okay, the colonialist has gone. This past 60 years, we have been governed as if we were still a colony, except that the colonialist was our own sons and daughters. But now let us all agree, if we are maintaining one country, as opposed to going back to being ethnic nations, let us decide for whom we are maintaining that ourselves into one country. And that, I believe, is what Project C is confronted with now, as are all Cameroonians. All Cameroonians. And that's why I was excited when I saw what Project C was trying to do. Although at one point, I kind of was discouraged when prior to and immediately following the presidential election of October 12, 2025, Project C inserted itself so much into determining, as it were, the outcome of that election. And when things turned out the way that they did, skewed as they were, I saw Project C energetically investing itself and its energies and its resources into the fight, if you like, to recover the stolen victory and place Mr. Issa Chiroma at Unity Palace. And I said to myself, important as that may be, it cannot possibly be the main focus of Project C. That can be ancillary to what Project C has as its primary vision, vocation, and it is this thing of building a new Cameroon. So but however, let me put it this way. But what are some of the things that have hindered and may continue to hinder the emergence of this new Cameroon we're talking about? The first is that we cannot arrive at that new Cameroon relying on the current leadership machinery of our country to take the initiative. In other words, we are being governed today by a group of people who are not at all reform inclined. They are not interested in reform because the present situation serves them well. So you have to go outside government and its institutions to lay the ground for this new Cameroon. And the way to do that is to bring in the Cameroonian people, the Cameroonian population, to be the foundation on which you rely to push forward with your agenda for reform, leading to the emergence of a new Cameroon. Unfortunately, and this again is my observation, unfortunately, our population during the 60 years or so that we have lived in two successive autocracies, that of Mr. Biya and that of Mr. Ahijo, followed by that of Mr. Biya, our population have come to believe that, contrary to what our constitution loudly proclaims, they are not sovereign. Sovereignty does not belong to them. They don't believe it. So the first challenge is to work them up to the point of recognizing that, yes, indeed, we the people are sovereign. And that may require a period of, I don't want to use a word which might not politically correct, but the period of indoctrination. We have to go towards the population and, in fact, indoctrinate them to the point of raising their consciousness, their awareness, so that they accept that they are the sovereign and do what they need to do. Because this process has to depend on the direct participation of the population. But the direct participation of the population does not mean, and again, I may be, especially after I've read what Ari shared with me in terms of the timeline between now and this, end of December of activities that Project C intends to conduct. And I see that there is to be a conference with a huge participation. And I said to myself, yes, at some point there has to be, the population has to be brought in. But I'm skeptical, very skeptical, about us trying to bring in the population at this stage of defining what is wrong with our country. Because those of us on this call sitting together, I bet you, can identify what is wrong in our country. As a working group, as a think tank, call it what it will, can identify what is wrong with our country and what needs to be done. And we will even be able to write a constitution in the room in which we are sitting. Okay? The challenge, however, is that if you do that, how do you get the buy-in of the population? That's the point at which it would be profitable to sell to the population something that you have fleshed out, which corresponds to the structures of the new Cameroon that you think is called for, based not on your individual and personal preferences. And no, I mean, the group that you form, whether it's 25 of you, 50 of you, you are a representative of the population, because you've made a diagnosis, come to the conclusion that things are not right. You can also, by discussion amongst yourself, identify how to make things right, and then take your blueprint to the population. So if I go to someone in Cambe, if I go to Cambe and I call a meeting in the town square to address the population of Cambe, I shouldn't be telling them, we want you to take part in drafting the constitution. They don't know what I'm talking. They wouldn't know what I'm talking about, you know. But if I come to that rally and I'm telling them, this is the way our country is today. It is not working. It is not serving anybody. We need to change this. And you, at that rally, you give them points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I bet you that when that by the time that rally is over, you would have people who understand what they are trying to do, what they are trying to say, and are prepared to join in it, because that one meeting has allowed you to sell the projects to them, and you obtain their buy-in. It is not so complicated, because in effect, you are telling them what consciously or subconsciously they know. They know. The only thing that has been lacking is, how does this state of knowledge of all of us, of all these people, this population, how do we harness that to provide the basis for transformation? In that respect, therefore, I mean, it may be too late. It's too late in the day, because you guys may be pretty well advanced already in your preparations. But if I were to give advice or make a recommendation, I would in fact say, don't focus so much on taking people or assembling people, whether inside Cameroon, where ideally it ought to be. But if we're envisaging, even contemplating the possibility of meeting outside Cameroon, I've heard Kigali mentioned, it can only be because we admit that the present circumstances, conditions in our own country don't allow us to meet them. The people who would like to bring into it, don't allow them to meet there. That's why we'll be thinking of meeting abroad. Otherwise, I mean, why would we want to have a meeting to retool our own country abroad? But there is a reality that we all recognize, which we have to be removed. And so, but I mean, I would invite you, therefore, to reconsider whether between now and December, instead of working towards holding a conference abroad, you should not rather work upon putting together a group of, let's not fear the word, experts, a group of experts who, in all the areas which are a subject of preoccupation for us, know what the situation is, can articulate it, ultimately in writing, digestible form, will produce a public education document that we use to go to all the parts of Cameroon, either physically or virtually, depending upon circumstances. And then at the end of such a period of quote-unquote sensitization, you then say, okay, we're inviting people to come together now. We are done with educating, sensitizing, mobilizing, and so on. Let us now meet and lay a new foundation. I'll end by saying that I must stop for us to exchange. But I would end by saying that three things, in my view, would need to happen here. The outcome, or if you like, output, would need to include three things. I say include three things because I'm aware that it may not be the only three, but one of them is what I said earlier: creating awareness in the people of Cameroon that they are the sovereign, and what that means in terms of the role that they have to play as citizens in their own country. They don't all have, we're not asking them all to belong to one political party or one opinion or one ideology. No, simply for them to know that the establishment of the foundation for a new governance of their country is not l'affaire des autres. No, each person has to be involved. That's outcome number one. Outcome number two is we can be tinkering with the machinery of government in terms of institutions as provided by the Constitution and so on and so forth. But if you are going to run a new Cameroon with the mentality and habits of the civil servants who are running today's Cameroon, that new Cameroon of yours will become old even before it is born. Yes. Hence the need at some point to focus on, think about a public service code as an ancillary document to the Constitution. There has to be a public service code because there is a need for a complete re-education of the Cameroonian civil servant. And along with that, and this is my third recommended outcome, along with that has to be a citizen code. Because again, when we talk about what is happening today, we tend to concentrate on the governing elite. Yes, we are right to concentrate on them. But lamentably, one of the consequences of these autocratic regimes that we've had is that the rule of law has broken down in our country. There is no sense of ethical behavior anymore. It is not just the governing elite, but also the citizens who really need to change their mentality. And counting on them to change their mentality spontaneously, it's an illusion. Counting on them to change their mentality depending upon who comes to talk to them at what point in time would be inefficient. And I would recommend that whoever wants to build a new Cameroon should integrate in their thought the necessity ultimately to draw up a citizen code for Cameroon. It's not common. It's not common. We don't know many countries which have a citizen code, but we're addressing these issues to deal with our national reality. And our national reality today is that there is so much indiscipline in the minds of our own population, no sense of right and wrong anymore. No, I mean, a lot of what is happening around us and which is affecting the welfare of our citizens is the bad behavior of our citizens. So at some point we are having a civil code and a criminal code and a tax code and all of that. You might as well think of a citizen code to serve as the basis for educating this new Cameroonian. By the time, after 5 years, 10 years of applying such a code, we have a country with normal people. All right, the code may become less and less necessary because the content of that code would have become part of the DNA of our citizens. But for us to get there, we would need a citizen code. There is a lot that one could say, but I just thought I should end there in terms of, on the one hand, is a new Cameroon possible? Yes, it is not only possible, it is imperative that it emerges. Number two, how can it be done? I've shared a few thoughts with you, randomly, knowing that we are just engaging the early stages of a conversation that may go on for a very long time at different places. And once again, I thank the leadership of Project C for allowing me to spend these few minutes blahing here. Thank you.
Ah oui, peut-être quelques mots en français, juste pour les trois derniers points particulièrement.
Absolument.
Dr. Munzu nous a fait vraiment l'immense plaisir de partager. Et ensuite, je pourrais éventuellement lui demander de repréciser quelques petits points pour notre audience francophone. Je t'aime pas ces trois derniers points. Il suggère vraiment fortement que à l'issue de ce processus, un Cameroun pour une fois pour toutes, que ce résultat-là, il propose 3 points. Vraiment tout mettre en œuvre pour sensibiliser les Camerounais sur le fait que c'est le peuple qui est souverain. Vraiment, les gens doivent prendre conscience de leur souveraineté. Et deuxième point, si on compte sur la mentalité actuelle de nos agents publics, fonctionnaires et autres, ça sera très, très difficile. Donc, il suggère instamment la création d'un code du service public auquel les gens vont être soumis. Et puis, le troisième point, dans la même foulée, il suggère fortement la création d'un code du citoyen qui va inclure la dimension éthique, la dimension éthique et puis morale. Parce que c'est très rare en ce moment. Parlant de code service public, on peut penser à un pays comme le Rwanda. Ils en ont un et autres. Mais pour le code du citoyen, vraiment, c'est rare et ce serait une très grande première. Donc vraiment, voilà les 3 points essentiels qu'il a soulevés. Mais cela m'amène à faire juste un petit commentaire, c'est que en fait, l'importance de ces propos nous ramène effectivement à 2 aspects. Le premier aspect, c'est celui de la faisabilité de la Constitution. Nous en avons déjà parlé. Nous répondons oui, c'est faisable. Le deuxième aspect, c'est l'applicabilité. Là, c'est vraiment un autre aspect. Ce sont ceux qui sont en situation de gouvernance et autres qui peuvent vraiment prendre à bras le corps la mise en œuvre de ces points, la sensibilisation, le rallye à travers le pays, parce que nous connaissons tous les difficultés et les problèmes, la perception qui règne en ce moment au Cameroun. Docteur, vous êtes un fédéraliste constitutionnaliste de renommée vraiment mondiale, vraiment de ce point de vue très, très respecté. Mais il est important quand même de se poser la question. Oui, le Cameroun, c'est des ethnic nations, c'est vraiment des groupes ethniques qui se sont mis ensemble, qui ont été mis ensemble par le colon, et c'est clair. Mais quand le colon est parti, ceux qui ont pris la relève dans les pays ont continué à diriger pour leur propre intérêt. C'est ce que nous constatons. Mais est-ce que vraiment, docteur, est-ce que le colon est réellement parti? Ça, c'est vraiment la question qu'il faudrait qu'on se pose parce que au bout de 65 ans, 66 ans, nous avons suffisamment d'éléments pour dire qu'il n'est pas vraiment parti. Est-ce que dans les pays francophones, est-ce que le colon n'a pas procédé à l'indirect rule que les Anglais utilisaient à l'époque? C'est-à-dire qu'ils ont mis à la tête un certain nombre de pays des gens qui étaient chargés de continuer ce qu'ils avaient commencé. Parce qu'il est difficile de comprendre que 65 ans plus tard, nous ayons autant de problèmes pour pouvoir faire passer la souveraineté, le concept de souveraineté à nos populations. Donc voilà en fait les questions que je voulais poser. Pour dire, est-ce que vraiment le colon est parti? Est-ce que ce ne sont pas les effets induits, les effets secondaires ou la télécommande du colon qui continue? On peut, pour ne pas être très long, on peut citer par exemple le cas de la monnaie et autres qui continuent quand même de continuer de nous maintenir. Donc, pour que le leadership actuel puisse effectivement être changé dans un Cameroun nouveau, dans un nouveau Cameroun, est-ce qu'il ne faudrait pas avoir, c'est-à-dire trouver les moyens de reformater justement ces Camerounais? Voilà un peu ce que je souhaitais avoir comme précision. Parce que cette intervention, parler aux gens d'Oncambe, comme vous avez dit, ce serait beaucoup plus facile si la forme de l'État était différente de la forme actuelle, qui est totalement centrale, tout part de Yaoundé. Donc voilà un peu, docteur. Merci infiniment pour cet éclairage-là. Voilà.
Merci, Léopold. Là, je suis en train de chercher. Il paraît que j'ai perdu l'image. Ah, ok. Je me retrouve. Voilà. Ok, tout à l'heure, j'avais perdu l'écran, quoi. Donc, oui, effectivement, c'est à raison que tu attires l'attention à ce phénomène, de savoir si le colon est véritablement parti ou pas. C'est une évidence. Le colonisateur n'est pas parti entièrement, surtout en ce qui concerne les anciens. Est-ce qu'on peut même pas parler d'anciens colonies françaises? Elles sont toujours les colonies françaises. Donc, pour ce qui est des pays francophones, non, la France n'est jamais partie. La France, à un moment donné, a tout simplement décidé, parce que c'était devenu de mode, d'octroyer les indépendances. On ne pouvait pas assister à ce que les Anglais se désengagent, que les Portugais se désengagent et que la France ne semble pas se dégager de ces colons. Donc, la France a tout simplement remis les rênes du pouvoir entre les mains des Camerounais qui, pour l'essentiel, sont seulement une prolongation de l'administration française. C'est évident. Mais c'est là, justement, où on se pose, revient la question de la souveraineté. Si notre Constitution dit, comme elle le fait clairement, que la souveraineté appartient au peuple, nous, les Camerounais, si nous acceptons cela et que nous décidions d'exercer notre souveraineté, nous devons mettre en cause ce système qui est une prolongation de l'administration française. Moi, personnellement, je ne peux pas reprocher à la France de vouloir rester
tout à fait
en Afrique,
tout à fait,
ou bien de se prolonger dans les administrations supposées africaines, mais qui ne le sont pas. Dans l'intérêt de la France, je comprends la position de la France. C'est plutôt nous, sachant cela, qu'est-ce que nous, Camerounais, peuple souverain, décidons de faire. C'est pour ça qu'à quelques degrés près, vous allez observer qu'il y a quand même des pays francophones où les populations commencent à s'éveiller. Et dans ces pays-là, on voit un effort est fait pour contrecarrer cette volonté de la France de se perpétuer dans notre pays. Donc, bref, je me dis que si les résultats, l'une des conséquences, one of the outcomes de l'effort de projet C serait justement de doter le Cameroun d'une classe dirigeante prête à faire tête à la France.
Ouais.
Voilà.
D'accord.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean.
Yeah. Thank you, Leopold. Thank you, Dr. Munzu, for your introduction here to this conversation, because it really, I said to you when I called, we at Project C, we don't have all the answers. We are, like every other Cameroonian, wanting and hoping and working towards a better Cameroon. And it's in listening humbly that we have gotten here, and that we will continue to grow. And the plan that we laid out, even as we have kicked it off, we have open and have been able to adapt and adjust as we're going along, because we also know to do this we need to bring along the Cameroonian people with us, that we need buy-in from the Cameroonian people. And this is why even this concept of the service that we're using is really a way for us to get that buy-in from the Cameroonian people. We would love for the audience to if you have a question, or if you following the submission made here by Dr. Munzu, if you have any questions about this new Cameroon being possible, here's an opportunity for you to raise your hand and ask a question. And I've seen immediately 2 hands have gone up. I don't know which one went first. So I'll pick the one that's first on my screen, and I hope I don't get into trouble. That I'll go with Judith.
Good morning.
Good
Thank you,
morning.
Dr. Munzu, for your thoughts and what you shared this morning. I wanted to pinpoint on one thing you said, especially. You said you don't hold France accountable for the fact that colonialism seems to have stayed back in Cameroon. So my question to you is, what do you think can help the people back home, us, for example, and the young ones, really pull out of the mentality that we have? Because to your point, you have countries like Ivory Coast that were also French colonies, who are still able to advance, who are still able to get past some of the challenges that we as French colonies suffered. How can we change our mindset, which is the huge challenge that we have, to not necessarily blame France and the colonialism that we face, but to really motivate ourselves to do for the country and stop putting blame on other people? What has happened, but I think after more than 50 years, it's time to really take accountability and understand that we are the cause of everything that's happening today in the country. What are your suggestions for things that we could do to help ourselves in our families, to motivate other people to get on board and get on with what Project C is doing?
Well, thinking on my feet, my dear sister Judith, I would say that we should concentrate, and I may be repeating myself because I think I said it before, but concentrate on educating. I don't know that educating is the right word. You'll say sensibiliser or former or whatever, but some process of inculcation of ideas is necessary for the Cameroonian population. And it doesn't take long for that to happen. And it doesn't take many people for that to happen. What it requires, however, is access to the population. Access to the population. Conventionally, access to population was through public meetings. You organize a meeting in a village square or in a town hall and so on, and you educate people in that manner. But we all know how the Cameroonian government, especially the current regime, but the one before it, the same thing, how much they've done to make it impossible for people with new ideas to access our population. So we have to be creative in finding avenues for messaging our population. And thank heavens, we have the internet now. We just need to put together our program, our package of public education. Why do I say that? I say that because even in those examples we have of Francophone countries where some progress has been made, that progress has been made because the populations in those countries exerted so much pressure on their governing elite that they could not be ignored. They could not be ignored. And their governing elite, had to yield. Yes, in Cameroon, we've had moments when the population has demonstrated what it wanted or has demonstrated that it needs space to express itself. But very, very quickly, the repressive regime in Yaoundé finds a way to keep them quiet physically. But the regime in Yaoundé cannot reach them, cannot keep people quiet if we use, the new channels that the internet is placing at our disposal now. Let me just, that's one thing by saying that indeed, France, for that matter, even the UK, United Kingdom is not completely absent from Nigeria. It is not completely absent from Ghana. However, they are decent enough to recognize that the Nigerian government has been mandated by its people to lead the exercise by its people of its sovereignty. So the United Kingdom would enter into negotiation with Nigeria, whereas with the French, until recently, this is beginning to change, but with the French, they didn't seem to see a need to negotiate. They dictate to the puppets whom they've put in power what should happen in which sector. That is beginning to change somehow, and we should leverage on that to organize ourselves in Cameroon.
Thank you for that response. The next question goes to Shira.
Yeah, thank you, Ari. Good afternoon, good evening. I really don't have a question, but I'm sorry for the first time I'm joining Project C very late. I have a cousin who lost a wife, so we have a memorial mass, so I just got here. And I caught Dr. Munzu's expose at the end, and it actually excited me with regard to the citizens' code. I now live in Cameroon. I tell my brother Eric almost every day that we have a responsibility to change what is happening in Cameroon. So I have been wondering what is the way to go about it. And when I heard him talk about the citizens' code, I was so excited. Because we Cameroonians, I don't know how it started. Cameroon was not like this when I left the state, coming back. I came back to a different Cameroon. We think about me, myself, and I. as much as we criticize the government, we have a responsibility the way we behave. So it's just to commend that idea about a citizen school, to suggest that as we focus on the Constitution, we should also focus on the citizen school. It is very, very essential from what I see, from what I live every day. We do not think about anybody else. It's always me, myself, and I. I've been thinking for months, how do I go around to pick up issues and create a television program through some network that would sensitize citizens about thinking about the other? In my mind, what I see, we do not help the country to be what it's supposed to be. So I really commend Dr. Munzu for bringing that up, and I hope we pick it up and move forward. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shira.
Thank you, my sister. If I may comment very quickly, very, very quickly. There is an aspect which we perhaps haven't stressed enough, and that is the contribution to be made by reform-minded Cameroonians who happen to be at the forefront of communication, whether as bloggers, as owners and editors of newspapers, as proprietors of or staff of television channels, and so on. Now, they have a role to play, which, in my observation, they are not playing. They need to be more politically committed, committed to a political cause like this one. And for instance, instead of limiting themselves to constantly just reporting on what the Biya government is doing or not doing, the latest scandal and all of that, we know that the Biya government is not paying attention to any of that. So for heaven's sake, don't limit yourself to, and I hope there are some of them on this call, don't limit yourself to simply reporting, criticizing, creating the headline, grabbing the headline here and there. No. What if you dedicated, working with the leadership of Project C, what if you dedicated a series to this education we're talking about, educating the Cameroonian citizen towards the new citizenship? So there is still quite a lot to be done. And what depresses me sometimes is this sense of the Cameroonians tend to think in messianic terms. You think of a Messiah as some Messiah is going to come and save us, and so if a Simon Munzu comes forward and it's expressing views that people want to follow, it's like, oh, Simon Munzu has to be a savior. A Frundi has to save us. Kamto, the savior, the Messiah. Chiroma, the Messiah. Are, the Messiah. Leopold, the Messiah. No, we have to get away from that. And at a lower level, we have to get away from always wanting to lead something. I say this if I still had tears in my eyes at my age, the tears would be flowing, but tears have dried up in my eyes now due to old age. And but if I sometimes I shed tears. Why are we so individualistic? We, the Cameroonian quote-unquote elite who say we want change, whether in the diaspora or in Cameroon, why are we so individualistic? Why do we refuse to get together? And if we work together, our working together does not rest on what I feel about Munzu or what someone feels about Chinja or about Judith or anybody else. It rests on what we have as a common agenda, a common objective. Let's not be united by allegiance to an individual, however well endowed that person may be. Let's be united by a sense of a common agenda. If we are pursuing that agenda, even if for the time being the leader is Chinja, if for any reason Chinja drops out of the scene, we continue. Why do we continue? Because we continue to share a common goal, a common agenda. But if we are here only because we're following a person, then when that person either turns their back or steps aside or sits out, the cause ends. And I've been so frustrated by the number of times that we have taken initiatives with people, and then before you realize it, especially when there are no quick fixes to the results, people get discouraged very quickly and they leave. We have to change that amongst ourselves. We do.
Yeah, thank you.
Juste,
Yeah, you can.
Harry, juste un petit commentaire au sujet des messies.
Oui.
Dans la psychologie sociale, hein, ça se voit, la prolifération des églises préconditionne les gens à l'attente d'un messie. Ce que l'on attend dans les religions, les gens ont tendance à le projeter dans la vie politique, dans la vie sociale. Donc, ceci explique cela, quoi.
Et les églises, il y en a dans chaque carrefour au Cameroun.
À chaque carrefour. Et c'est entretenu. C'est entretenu. Donc, déformater les gens ne sera pas facile.
Oui. Mais on est au travail. We have one last question. I know, Dr. Munzu, we're running over time here, but we have a question from Bernard.
Thank you so much, you all on Project C. Dr. Munzu, thank you so much for
the that's Bernard. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much for this presentation. And I think your last reaction in relation to, I think it's Shira's reaction was quite important. And she raised a very important point, communication. That sounded like a direct indictment because I've hesitated for a very long time to do this, but last week I did announce here that I would be starting something the next few weeks. And Eric, you could kindly look at your WhatsApp. I sent you something regarding that so that we could actually put something serious and work on reform and education. Dr. Munzu is right. Most of our communication around politics is all about the headlines, getting the buzz, and serious conversations get drowned in that noise. So there needs to be an intentional strategy to let the valuable communication get out there for people to find it. And that takes teamwork, it takes strategy, and it takes some energy. Those are things that we need to work around. Then my question to Dr. Munzu is, and he has mentioned that, which is about the messianic space of our politics. Now, with the messianic space of our politics, it becomes too tribalized in the sense that once somebody believes in A, that is it. The person doesn't get to talk to the person who believes in B or somebody who believes in reform. At this point, I know we're talking about education, sensitization, awareness raising, and reforming our minds. But how do you think we can do that in addition to the education, or how should the education be formatted so that we get across that super tribalization of messianic politics? Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard, and good to hear your voice. We haven't seen for quite a while. but I mean, I see here because I didn't see your face. Yeah, how to combat this messianic thing phenomenon. I think it's relatively simple. You have to have a packaged message that you want to be spread, and anyone who wants to join you in the effort to spread that message has access to the message. To take an example, if Project C were to say that, perhaps even stop calling itself Project C and since we're talking about the emergence of a new Cameroon, directly call itself New Cameroon. And in New Cameroon, Cameroon Nouveau or Nouveau Cameroon, but New Cameroon is catching.
Daniel, are you going somewhere else?
It's programmatic, but it's capable of having content, specific content. When we say we want a new Cameroon, what do we mean? What do we want? What do we put into this? So the leadership provides content with regard to New Cameroon and the expected outcome. Then people like Bernard Galim, people like Mimi Mefo, people like I want to leave it at that. Limit it to people whom I know have been working closely with Project C, but there are many others. Taking those two as example, if they want to devote part of their time, and the space in their media to what Project C is doing, then they have a document that sets out clearly what the search for New Cameroon is all about. They should be able to exploit that as part of the struggle, the fight. They should be able to exploit that and send digestible, nuggets of information about this to the population. And before you realize it, you've created awareness among so many that even school children can be talking about it. Your bike riders can be talking about it because your content includes something that echoes the position and the plight and the aspirations of bike riders and so on. So it's not going to be easy, and it doesn't have to be easy. It doesn't have to be easy, but it can be done. So what we need to know is simply say to ourselves, it can be done. It doesn't have to be easy. And we devote the time necessary. Something else for us not to be in a hurry, to be realistic about how long this may take. If it's necessary that you spend 6 months just working intensely on this conscious raising thing, then so be it. If you can achieve it in 3 months, fine. But you mustn't set yourself a 3-month timeline and then find that you have to rush everything else because you want to do it in 3 months. No. I hope we see what we're talking about there. But yes, I mean, Bernard, you guys need to be involved, but not just involved in terms of coverage of, say, meetings like this, or interviewing the leaders of this. All that is important, is good. But even more important is that on a continuous basis, you recognize that it is part of your mission to educate, inform on what Project C and ultimately the New Cameroon is all about.
And thank you, Dr. Munzu, for the time you have dedicated to this and the the information shared here. I don't see any hand up for a question, so I'm going to turn this over to you, Eric, for maybe a question, maybe a vote of thanks.
No,
il a été très clair, très clair.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Again, I'm not surprised at all. You know, we totally, when we've been chasing or trying to get to Dr. Munzu for quite a while, and we knew, you knew, I did also, that his program was extremely intense, but he promised that as soon as he could, he would come, and he has come and he's delivered. And I think, you know, I'm certain all of us are not only our understanding of things enhanced in that understanding, but I think we come out of this with a sense of the enormity of the task we're taking on and why we've got to adjust, think through, and continue to grow in our understanding of the landscape. So obviously, I thank my brother and friend heartily, and he knows that, for not only coming, but for delivering. You know, we do have a lot of people come through, and we always appreciate their addition to the knowledge we have of things. But when you have a professor come and deliver in the way he did, you feel enhanced in your understanding of what you're taking on. I want to say that one of the things we're trying to do here, and you know, I speak for Ari, who's just devoted his, I don't know how he does it, but devoted his life and things, you know, to just make sure that we stay on track and do what we have to do. But one of what we are trying to achieve is to, you know, we can continue talking to Cameroonians until the chickens come home. They'll never quite get it, I believe. So but if we have something we can show, something we can compare, I mean, there is a constitution. Most people think this is a pretentious exercise or an exercise in grandiose positioning. No. What we're trying to do is produce something that people can look at and look at what they have and say, could that be what we want? So we're going to work on that, and we'll continue to do that. But I think Dr. Munzu has just moved this to a whole different level with this three very important things that I retain. One is this public service code, the citizen code, and the need, and of course we've been thinking about how we're going to communicate, because everything is going to ride on this. Once we have this document that we're working on, we will then communicate in ways that matter. We will engage with citizens. But I think it's important that we incorporate all these ideas that is put on the table, and we're certainly going to do that. And it's going to weigh again on Array and Leopold, but that's their business. I'm sitting here in Wales, occasionally eating dole that my sister-in-law prepares. But, you know, it's a task that we're totally willing to take on. We understand it, Dr. Munzu, and we will please allow us to come to you maybe more often than you would want to give us, but please allow us to come to you. I retain that. I was looking prior to this meeting, and the note that Bernard Ngalim sent to me, precisely on what you were saying. And we're in touch with a lot of the bloggers. We even have a unit, a group of bloggers that we talk to occasionally. I think you've just emphasized the need for us to, you know, to engage more fully with that group, and we will. And of course, as I said, you know, once we have something we can show Cameroonians, we're going to communicate deeply and in a coherent and consistent manner. I just, before stopping here, want to thank, you know, Mamdua, Marilyn, whom you know well, who's been working extremely hard to engage with us and ensure that some of the ideas that are coming out of here go to other parts of the audience in the country. Père Janvier, I know you're here, maybe he's left, but it's always good to have him because I know he too carries some of these ideas to other audiences. And I say this, I mention these names again to invite all of us here. You know, Dr. Tita is here, you know, Judith has been with us all along. There are lots of people I'd love to mention to take these ideas to others. We cannot just, you know, we come in together here. We have, I don't know how many people are, you know, 30 something who are with us. And then I don't know how many are on other platforms. I know it rises to a few, maybe 1,000 or 2. But we want everybody who's listening, who's with us here to really take out the message. We're not doing this for anybody, we're doing it for us. And I think the product of this exercise is what we will then have, because right now we can talk and talk, but if we don't have a product, something to show that gets people thinking, that challenges them to understand what that new Cameroon means. And by the way, Dr. Munzu, Project C is actually Project Cameroon. And as long as it is still a project, we think we will hang on to Project C or Project Cameroon. And hopefully when we move to the next level, then we might change it to a new Cameroon. And prior to Project C, we had, as Leopold fully understands, New Cameroon, which came up with some brand new ideas. And I can say this coming from the world you and I come from, Dr. Munzu, from the world of development. We had fairly new ideas in how a society can govern itself with new ideas that even, I mean, we don't want to put it out there so that the World Bank and the IMF and the African Development Bank and all of these organizations take them and twist them around. And I think we have some fairly original ideas that we'll be putting out as part of this new Cameroon that we're talking about.
Une vision, Eric.
Yeah, it's a vision for Cameroon. That work is also built into what we're trying to do here. And once it's all out there, we'll make sure that Cameroonians is brought to citizens everywhere. But I think we've got some great ideas today. Thank you for them, and we will move on them as expeditiously and as seriously as possible. Ari.
Thank you very much, Eric. Dr. Munzu, thank you, Leopold, and thank you for everyone participating. Just before we close, we have this one message which essentially sums up what we're doing. And we played this earlier on in French, but we'll play it now in English. And just ask everybody to sit back, relax, and just listen to the message that is being communicated here, because this is what we are trying to accomplish. And for us to do that, everyone needs to play a role in it.
For decades, Cameroonians have watched us hope slip through our fingers. Decisions about our future made behind closed doors. Our voices drowned out by power and politics again and again. We have been told who we are and what we must accept. Cameroon's destiny has been shaped by others. Cameroonians are waking up and demanding change. What kind of country do we want? What makes us Cameroonian? The soul of Cameroon is shaped not by what divides us, but by what unites us. Oh. kind of country do we want? What makes us Cameroonian? Imagine a movement not of politicians, but of people. Imagine every corner of this country, every hamlet, village, town, city, every region, rising together with one purpose, not for an election, not for power, but for one nation, once and for all. Imagine putting country over self, love over hate. Cameroon, not tribe, language, not region. The soul of Cameroon is shaped not by what divides us, but by what unites us. Imagine a movement not of politicians, but of people. This is not a dream, this is Project C. Imagine the street vendors, the motorcycle taxi drivers, the trade unions, traditional rulers, professionals, and the diaspora, working together everywhere for something bigger than any one of us. Oh, for the first time we, the people, will come together to answer the hardest, most important questions. How do we finally lay to rest the ghost of the past and create a future where every citizen belongs? Over the next 4 months, we will listen, we will debate, we will draft a new constitution. Oh, one that reflects our diversity, our dreams, our determination to build a Cameroon of dignity, peace, and prosperity. This is a movement born of the people, for the people. No more decisions made for us, without us. No more waiting for permission to hope. A new Cameroon is possible. Hey, not determined by our colonial past, but by our common future. Join the movement for a new Cameroon. This is Project C. This is a movement born of the people, for the people. A new Cameroon is possible. Join the movement for a new Cameroon. Join the movement for a new Cameroonian.
Oh, I thought we should end with that message, which essentially sums up all what we're trying to accomplish. We thought as Africans, we use song and dance and music to communicate. And I hope that this in itself just envelopes everything that we've been talking about here today. What we want to accomplish is we just want everybody to imagine something different, free ourselves from the shackles of our past. Let's imagine a common future. Yes, we have a colonial past. Yes, we come from different cultural backgrounds. What is our common destiny? And how do we build that together? Hard to imagine, but that's the task that needs to be done. If we all think about the challenges ahead, the most important of all those challenges is our imagination. If we can imagine, then we can do it. So let's imagine that new future, and that's the purpose of the music that we have shared with you today. Dr. Munzu, once again, thank you for joining us, for sharing your perspective. And we will be back knocking on your door for more of your involvement, your support, your guidance, your advice. It's been incredibly helpful listening to you, and have a page full of notes that I've been making as you've spoken about this. Leopold, if you want to have any closing.
Non, Harry, merci infiniment au Dr. Munzu. Merci infiniment pour lui d'avoir qui trouverait du temps pour nous. Le sondage continue, s'il vous plaît, le sondage continue. Merci beaucoup de continuer de le remplir. Il continue jusqu'au mois d'août, je crois, oui.
Yes, thank you so much, Leopold, for reminding us. Please, if there is one takeaway we ask of you, is to share the surveys. If you've not taken the survey, I'm putting up again the survey in English, the link. Please copy it, share it with others if you have taken the survey. If you haven't, please take the survey, because this is going to be really helpful for the kind of future that we want to imagine. I've also put out the links in French. We're also going to be broadcasting them on all the other platforms.
One quick word about the survey, Ari. One quick word about the survey, just to share this experience with you. I completed the survey, I think more than a week ago. And then a few days ago, I tried to do it again. And the system told me, no, you've already completed the survey. Which means that people cannot cheat unless they register under various names, but otherwise one person cannot do it twice. I was very impressed with that.
Yes, great. Thank you very much. That's one of the controls that we put on the survey. So you cannot do it twice. Yeah. I mean, of course, we hope that people are not even trying to scam the system, but there are controls there. It's completely anonymous as well, so we don't know who took the survey, and it's designed to be that way so that people should be at liberty to do it. If you want to learn more about Project C, visit projectcameroon.com, support us, donate for us to be able to reach out to thousands. If we want to really change Cameroon, we also need your support and contributions as well. But until then, we'll be back next Saturday. And our guest for next Saturday is going to be Dr. Chris Fomunyu, who has accepted to join us as part of this broader conversation. And we continue to reach out to experts across the country. I think we're also going to be reaching out to Dr. Professor Achille Mbembe, who is also going to be joining us. And we'll have more people coming to the conversation so that the outcome is really one that is well informed based on all of the knowledge that we will be acquiring. So once again, thank you to everyone that's joining us, whether it's here on Zoom and on all the other platforms. We're deeply grateful for your continuous support to Project C. Thank you.
The recording has stopped.